I'm Tori McNish, and this is the work that I researched for the show. It's titled Banana Fronds and Chicks. It's by Baishi, and it's dated to 1940. I chose to work on this painting because I had an immediate attraction to it just because of the really simple imagery. It wasn't something that I had seen before in a brush and ink work. And I also am generally interested in 20th century work, especially with this piece, just because of all the political and social aspects that were surrounding its making. Well, Baishi was a really interesting person. He came of age in the end of the Qing dynasty, so a time of social and political upheaval. And he had the opportunity to go to school, even though he was quite poor. His family was very poor, and learn a little bit about reading and writing and poetry and painting. And he actually apprenticed to a carpenter, where he found the mustard seed garden manual of painting at a client's house, and he borrowed it, and that's how he actually learned to paint, by copying from the manual. And then from there he began to copy old master works, like his two most influential painters to him, I suppose, Shitao and Bada Shanran, which he always kind of cited as an influence on his work.
Why is he so popular?
Well, from what I figured from my research and from doing a lot of looking at the painting, is that it kind of marries two different aspects of painting, the avant-garde and kitsch, basically, which the avant-garde is seen in his reference to the old masters, specifically Shitao and Bada Shanran, specifically in this work, in the depiction of the leaves, using just the monotone ink washes in a very abstracted and two-dimensional way. And the kitsch is seen in his choice of subject matter, specifically the chicks at the bottom here, which are referencing folk imagery, which is what his practice was rooted in. Well, I would say it was political because, one, the title The People's Artist was an official title that was given to him by the Communist Party, and they utilized Qi and his work as an example of New China. So kitsch specifically is used as propaganda art often by governments and other leading groups, I suppose. So they kind of held Qi up as an example of the ideal communist subject, and that his work was ideally Chinese. The inscription is actually dedicating the work to a man that he calls Master Baishi, which is the pseudonym of Philip D. Sprouse, which is an American diplomat that was in China until 1949, I think from 1935 to 1949. And he was an American diplomat, as I said, so that kind of exemplifies Qi's popularity as an artist outside of China, which was to Japan and all over the world, I guess.
So Qi is famous for saying, if you learn from me, you will have life, but if you imitate me, you will die. So what does that mean? That's going to be a hard one to splice it. But like, why does he say that? What does a quote mean, in other words?
So I would probably state the quote and then delve in. Unless I already started to realize that part of this interview, you probably will be in this one a bit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, so you could ask that question and then response, because you'll be in this one a bit.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say it. So, okay. So, do you understand what I'm going to ask the question about?
I think so. I have an answer for it, but it's more like generally related to, I think, everything in the
Okay, good.
exhibition.
So that will be the way you can wind up this interview.
Okay.
Okay. So Qi is famous for saying, if you learn from me, you will have life, but if you imitate me, you will die. So what does that mean? What did he mean by that?
I think that quote exemplifies something that was important to all Chinese painters, that they copied works from books and from other old masters to try to emulate them, to try to learn from them, and to try to get that way of moving that was important to Chinese painting. And that's opposed to the idea of forgery or just copying works to sell or to make some sort of money or living off of, I suppose.
So copying from Qi's point of view was a creative act, or it could be, right?
I think it was a way of learning, and I think that that's how he began to learn himself, and I think that's how all painters, I would say, started learning. But I think emulating for him was more important than working in the style specifically of someone, and that's why he always cites the two artists, Chitao and Bada Shanren, as influences as opposed to specifically working in the line of.